I think one of the things I've said in the past is that natural light might not be the best for video. And what I meant by that was that the natural light when you walk into a space probably isn't going to be suited to make for the best looking footage. However, there are rules and there are rules that you should break, and almost every rule you should probably break. But one of the things that's nice about natural light is the authentic feeling it will give to your footage. Now, that doesn't mean you can just film from any angle in natural light and it's going to look great and it's going to look authentic. You still have to know positioning, because that's the one thing that's most important about lighting, is the positioning of the light and where you are at with the camera. Now, I've seen many people who have nice lighting setups, but just because their positioning is off, it looks kind of bad. So when you're filming with natural light, it's really nice because you have a nice authentic feeling. It doesn't feel overly lit. If you watch commercials, you definitely have a feeling for the ones that feel more authentic versus the ones that feel more produced. And you can usually tell, and it's usually by the lighting. Most of these commercials are shot with the same cameras, actors, directors, the whole thing. The one thing that is different is the lighting. Some go for a more natural look and some go for a more commercial or produced look. And what can be nice about your own work is that natural light is usually pretty easy to use if you know how to use it with positioning. So one thing that's really important is faces. Faces are the most important thing when you're lighting. Now, if you have a harsh light coming in at a strange angle on a face causing weird shadows, that should be immediately apparent to anyone. You can look up videos, you can look up photo examples, but there are a few places you want your light to come from, specifically behind, directly behind, or directly in front, or in some situations from the side. But when I say front, back, and side, that's all in relation to where the camera is at. It's not just the front of their face, but where's the camera at? Because the camera could be over here, and that might be okay, or it might not be. The camera could be back here, and then all of a sudden this is the backside. So keep that in mind. Where's the camera, and then where's the light coming from? Most of the time, if it's coming from behind, that'll be a nice edge light, and you just have to be careful about pushing it too far. Like the sun is a very, very, very powerful edge light, and it can look cool, but sometimes it can look overly stylized. Same thing is true from the front. If the sun is hitting someone's face, it can be too bright, they can be squinting, and they might not look as good as if you had the sun coming from behind. And with the side, it's certainly a little bit more challenging, but with the fill or some other kind of modifier, you could probably take care of that. So always be aware of the positioning. And the color temperature is also really, really important. If you have mixed lighting of any kind, it's probably going to be ugly. Now, that's not to say you can't use it stylistically, because there certainly can be stylistic choices that you use where one room is warmer and one room is cooler or something like that, or outside is blue because it's daylight and inside is warmer. But again, I would stay away from mixed color temperatures unless you have a very specific reason to do so. And the reason for that is because it's very hard to correct in post-production. You might be able to get lucky and sample some colors if you have a more advanced color grading program, but a lot of time you're going to have mixed lighting and it might look weird. I've seen a lot of videos out there where they have like a warm light on this side and a cool light over here and then a green light up top, and it's really hard to account for all that. Even in this room, like this light back here in this room, sometimes I have it on, sometimes I have it off. I have it off right now because it's much greener than this light right here, this light. And why I turn the one off up top is because this light looks great. I like the color coming off this light, but when I have the light in the room on, even though to my eye it looks warm, on camera it's a lot greener and it's harder to color correct because I can sample that green and push it more magenta, but then I might start eating into colors in my face and it becomes a nightmare, and it's not something I want to deal with for making a blog video on my YouTube channel. But what I'm doing with this light, so this is probably not good lighting. Maybe you think this looks cool. I don't. So I'm bouncing it off of the wall right there so that the light is hitting my face nice and big and soft. That's how I like my lighting for the most part in general. There are times where you want to use a little bit harsher, harder light, but I find those fewer and far between, because most people, when you're talking about faces, they want to look attractive and pleasing, and they want to like the way they look, right? I guarantee it. I guarantee people want to like the way they look. And so When you use softer light, that's usually a bit more flattering, and people will look at the footage and look at themselves and tend to appreciate the footage a bit more. Now, if you're doing something dramatic, throw all that out the window because it's not the case. But let's get back to the point, which is that natural light can make your footage look more authentic. So if you're doing something that is supposed to feel authentic, you probably want to use natural light or something that feels natural. You can certainly bring in lights, rig the whole thing and make it feel natural, but you can also get away with just using the natural light in the room or outside, wherever it is, as long as you're keeping these things in mind. The positioning of the light in the camera and the color temperature. You can also consider the harshness or the hardness of the light, and if you need to bring in any modifiers to fix that, if you need to bring any additional lights in to help reinforce some of the natural lighting, that's always an option too. So it's not that natural light is off limits. I wouldn't say that. It's just a little bit more challenging when you're using natural light because you have to usually position or modify or tweak something but still retain the natural feeling to it. So a lot of times when you're complementing and supplementing with additional lighting, you can quickly lose the natural feeling of the light in a space. So just keep that in mind, that you're not going too overboard if you are going for that natural authentic feel. But if you're going the other way and you want it to look, really produced, really slick, really nice, flat, even lighting, whatever it is for the case, you can certainly do that too, and that's when you probably want to avoid natural light or cut it down at most. And again, when I'm talking about natural light, I'm using it kind of loosely in terms of talking about it, but I'm just saying the natural light in the space. A lot of people talk about natural light as being daylight. I'm talking about just the light that exists within a space. So if you go into a room and there's 5 lights that are the practical lights in the room, you may want to turn those off and just use all the additional lights that you brought in. That way you can control the color temperature, you can control the softness, you can control the position a lot better than you can with the practical lights in the room. Same thing goes for outside. Maybe you just want to throw a huge silk up, cut off the sun, or flag it off or silk it off, whatever it is, to knock the sun way down, and then pull in additional lights to reinforce and kind of light your scene as if the sun is just kind of a nice ambient fill and you're not really using it for much more than that. So keep that in mind. Natural lighting, good for when you want to go authentic, but it can be a little bit more challenging when you're going for that nice professional look. When you're dealing with the natural light in a space, it can be a little bit more challenging. So just be prepared. If anything, know the space you're going to and be prepared for that, because guaranteed there's going to be plenty of other problems you have to deal with, and lighting is not one that you won't have to worry about last minute.